What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. This is TWA Motorsports, and today we continue the progress on the green truck. Now, I know I let you guys hang on the last video, and so I'll play that clip right now, and so you can see exactly what happened. So at this point, it's flashed. We're gonna go key it up and see what happens. The other thing, guys, is make sure you're watching a couple things you want to watch for. Obviously, any fuel leaks. You also want to watch your oil pressure to make sure it's going to stay low for a minute until that pump activates or starts turning and pumps some oil pressure up. It also might be kind of noisy. So as you can see, it did start, and sorry to leave you guys on a cliffhanger, but I had to do it. The video was already running long anyway, and I thought, man, that'd be a good spot to stop it. And anyway, today we're going to continue on our progress. Now, just know that I didn't do a whole lot in order to get it started. I mean, I put on those old plug wires, and I didn't put any of the coolant in. It was just one of those things I wanted to see if it'd fire and go, and it did. So today we're going to continue with putting everything back together, starting to fill it up with like coolant. And anyway, the first thing we're going to start with is the fans. You can see I've got a set of fans. These are a stock set out of a 2006 or 5. I don't remember. I bought them off of Facebook Marketplace. And you can get them new, but they generally last quite a while. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in place. There's really not a whole lot that holds these in, honestly. There's a couple clips on the side of the radiator that hold on the side, and then there's just 2 bolts in the top that bolt it in. I will tell you guys, though, this new radiator I bought, while it is a GM unit, I was looking like crazy because I couldn't find a plug, and apparently they don't put plugs in them anymore. So that is why I couldn't find one, is because, or I had a plug, but it's got a spot for it, but it doesn't go in there. So if you guys are looking for a place to put a plug, good luck, because you're not going to find one. Anyway, we're going to drop these fans in place and see if we can get some of the coolant lines routed. At this point, you can see I got the fans in. Just 2 13 millimeters is all that holds us up. And what's really cool is all these trucks are threaded for that. So it's like they knew they were going to put electric fans on it down the way. Anyway, that's in place. I went ahead and there's like a section here that holds this hose. I went ahead and hooked up the upper radiator hose. That's the only hose that I hadn't hooked up anyway. And then the one that goes to the throttle body ties in right here. There's also a spot down at the bottom to hold your wiring, which is really nice. But for now, I've got this guy painted up, the tensioner, and so I'm going to go ahead and put it into place. It is 3 15 millimeters. Obviously, one of them small. You can see there's not a standoff on that section. That's what needs to go there. And then I'll probably torque that to like, I don't know, 37 foot-pounds, maybe just a hair less. Now that I've got that on, I did go ahead and put the belt on as well. I'm going to go ahead and put this intake on. I bought an Air-Aid intake. Now, it's just the intake tube. It's an MIT, I guess they call it. And I guess the other thing is, this still says 4.3. It's the exact same lid as the one that it had before to your box over here that covers your air filter. I think for now I'm going to leave it. The other one, I think the sticker's all worn out looking, but maybe we'll just, I may clean it up and see, you know, kind of what I want to do there. But I am going to go ahead and put this thing on. Pretty simple here. Just one piece that goes on the throttle body. It's got a rubber coupler on both ends, and then the other end goes over your mass airflow sensor. Looks pretty good with that on there. I just cleaned up that lid just a little bit. Like I said, if my other one's in better shape, I may end up swapping, even though they're the same, just so it has like 5.3. There's no VIN number on that or anything, but to me, if the other one's good, I might use it. But on to spark plugs and plug wires. You guys know that I use the old ones. I got some Henson Performance or Henson Motorsports plug wires, and I also got They're little boots that go around it. Now, I've never used those in the past, but man, these headers are like really, really close, and I have a feeling that if I don't use them, I may have some issues. Some people say that accelerates that issue, but we're going to see how they fit with and without them and make my determination based on that. But I did want a little nicer set of plug wires. Like I said, these are the old ones off of, there's actually one oddball one AC Delco, and the rest are aftermarket. But they're cheap replacements. So I'm going to go ahead, see if I can get the old ones out of the place and the new ones in. Like I said, I'm probably just going to test fit them with the protectors and see how I like it. If I don't like it, then I may not run them. So hopefully you guys can see here. I've got them on, and they are a little bit longer than the factory ones, which I read about that in the reviews. Some people said, oh, they're too long. They're not terrible. They are longer. For sure. I think they're more like 12 inches, and the factory ones are like 10 and a half to 10. And so there is a little excess, but it also gives me the ability to try to get them a little further away from the header. So I did go ahead and put on the boots, and it looks like they might help protect things. All in all, a good fit. I mean, they clamped on really well. I didn't try to use the factory pieces that go on the end of the spark plug, like those little spring-loaded boots that go on the end. But for now, other than plugging in the fans, which the only reason I haven't done that is because I did take these to the car wash and wash them off, and I just wanted to make sure that they were nice and dry. I didn't want anything in the connections. But I did hook up my AC back here, and I was waiting on this because on the 5.3 trucks, the AC inlet comes out more like right here. And on this truck, obviously it comes in more on the side. And I knew I could get it to hook to it, but I didn't want to do that before I put the plug wires in place. So I've got it hooked up, and I'm not in love with the way it fits because it's actually almost resting on a coil pack here. So we're just going to have to see how this holds up. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to work for me. I may have to, if the other one out there on my parts truck has been open, and so it's completely full of water, I'm sure. And I didn't want to put that one on because of that. So we may have to change this out to the one that has more of an inlet here in order to have, the AC working. I think it'll probably still work, but I don't know how long, being where it's routed. It's got quite a kink in it. There's no kink in the line, but I don't know. It doesn't fit like it's supposed to, in my opinion. But like I was saying, we are completely finished on the under the hood for the most part. I am going to pull it off the rack at some point, and we'll lift it off the ground before I start it again, because I want to move the steering wheel back and forth and try to get all the air out of that line before I light it up. Now that it has a belt on it, that pump will be turning, and I'll have all kinds of bubbles and stuff in there. So I figured it'd be easier to just get it off the rack, lift it up a little bit, turn the wheel back and forth, try to get as many air bubbles out as I can in that. And then I'll probably lift it off the ground as well to do the transmission fluid, just to make sure that I'm not driving down the road low on fluid, because it does take a little bit for that pump to get going. So I'd like to have it up kind of like I had it in the garage, in the other garage, up on jack stands where I can put it in gear and go. But I do have a couple other pieces that I need to put on the bottom, so let's get this thing up in the air and get those on. So the piece that we're putting on down here that I was talking about goes here, goes underneath the pan, and so there's a couple 18 millimeters here and then a couple 15s that go here. And I'm sure that that's some added bracing for the lower control arms. However, it's the brace that comes from here to that's got me a little baffled. I don't know that provides that much, but maybe it does. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all that into place. So at this point, got that in place, went ahead and tightened those up. Also, these are actually 13 millimeters that go in these little bars here. Got those on as well. And well, I'm just gonna make sure that everything's plugged in down here. It did start, but just making sure that like the transmission lines are out of the way. And you can see my plug up there for the electric fans. I need to plug that in, but I think I'll do that from the top. Like I said, I'm just gonna make a once over, making sure everything's where it needs to be. Nothing's close. I think I'll probably end up wrapping the transmission lines here. You can see it's really, really close to the header. I think I might put something on that. But other than that, I think we're looking pretty good. As you can see, I've got it back down on the ground. So a couple things I've done. I did go ahead and hook up the electric fans. I remember now that I was waiting for them to dry out because I had washed them. So We need to fill this thing up with fluids. Now, I did fill it up with, obviously, oil, and I put some transmission fluid in it. But for the power steering, before I start it again, I've got it pushed forward a little bit on the lift because I want to jack the front end up, and with it off and not spinning, I'm going to turn the wheel back and forth, checking the power steering fluid. Now, while I'm probably at the same time that I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and start putting coolant in. Now, these guys do not have a coolant fill or a radiator cap up top. They all go through the actual housing here, or the reservoir. So we're going to have to put it through there. So I'm going to fill it up, let it be kind of draining in there, or kind of settling as I'm lifting it up and doing that other stuff. The last thing I'm going to do before I probably try to start it, let it warm up to check the transmission fluid, is I need to go ahead and put these little rubber or plastic clips in that hold this in place, because we are finished here. And then I do have one more thing. I do have another filter, so we'll check that out here in just a second. But I'm going to start getting this accomplished. Like I said, just lift it off the ground enough where you can move the wheels back and forth, kind of get some of that air out. I'm going to do that with the actual cap off, so the air has a place to escape. So after just going around like probably 3 times, you can see I got it up off the ground with the jack in the front, I'm completely out. So this is why I made a mistake when I did my Camaro. I changed the rack on it and I started it up and then filled it after it was started. Well, the problem is there's so much air in there, it just bubbles up and makes a nasty mess. And so you have to wait for it to settle. So instead of starting it up and going through that, I'm adding some, turning the wheel back and forth, checking it again, adding some if I need to. So that process, while it takes a little bit of time, believe me, you're going to save some headache. Also went ahead, like I said, and started pouring some antifreeze in here. Now I am using Dexcool. I know I'm going to get some hate on that, but guys, I've never had any issue with Dexcool. I know if you don't take care of it, or if this thing had 300,000 miles on it, it's never been changed, chances are it's going to cause a problem, but never had an issue. So we're just going to keep plugging away, and I think the next thing you guys are going to see is me get that filter, and then we should be ready to start it. So I got it back on the ground. We're about ready to start it up. Got the power steering fluid is full. It didn't go down anymore after going back and forth probably 10 or 20 times. So it's time to put the filter in. What I bought, Green Filter USA. Guys, I've used this on several cars. So CTSV, ZR1, I think this will eventually get one, but every time I bought a filter that's not for like a daily driver, Green Filter USA is what I've used, and I really like them. So that is what I'm going to put in here. It's just a panel filter, but it does flow a little better, and chances are you're probably not going to notice a huge difference unless if you've got a blower car or something, you're definitely going to hear a difference. I can tell you that from the CTSV. But I'm going to go ahead and take these 4 screws out, put this thing into place, and then we're going to fire it up. At this point, I got the battery hooked back up. Now remember, I still have to hook up my fan, so before we go on a drive, we need to we need to fill the AC before I can actually hook that up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start it. I'm going to let it run with the radiator cap. I mean, this is essentially a radiator cap here. I'm going to let it run with that off and try to work some of the air out and fill up the system. So we're going to let it run. We're going to watch the coolant temperatures, and once we let it get up to temperature, we're going to shut it off, top off all the fluids. So we may have to put a little more power steering fluid in. May have to put a little more transmission fluid in. Now, for the transmission, I really want to get the back end off the ground, so I want to get it off the lift to do that, and to top the transmission fluid off, because we haven't put it in gear yet, nor am I going to right now. I'm just mainly concerned with getting the coolant full. going on. For one, the battery light's on, which generally means the alternator's not charging. And I don't know, it seems to be, everything's hooked up like it's supposed to be. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have an issue somewhere else, and it could be a ground connection somewhere, so we're gonna have to research that. And I'm getting a service engine light that's flashing, meaning we have a occurring miss as it's flashing. So not really sure if maybe one of the coil packs is bad, or if we got a leak somewhere, or the oxygen sensors are bad, because I didn't notice it until the car ran for a minute, which generally leads me to believe that the oxygen sensor is bad. So I did reuse the old ones out of the other truck. So I'm gonna go grab my computer, let it cool off for a minute. It got up to temperature, and I've just about got my fluids topped off where they need to be. But before I let it run anymore, I am gonna go grab my computer and see if we can figure out what's going on. After bringing my HP tuners out here, which you can see my laptop over there on the table, here's what I found out. For one, I'm not sure the alternator's charging that, or because it's a higher amperage, it's gonna freak out the system because my battery light comes on and off randomly. But that's not the biggest concern, really. I'll test that alternator. The biggest concern is the miss and the misfire. And what I've got is I've got a situation where it's misfiring on 7, which this should be 1, 3, 5, and 7, and on 4, which this should be 2, 4, 6, and 8. And so what I did was I swapped the coil packs, thinking maybe it's just a coil pack. That did not fix it. Swapped the plug wires, even though they're brand new, just to test it, didn't change. So, not 100% sure what's going on at this point. Now, it could be, that's just the two first things I tried. What I think I'm gonna do at this point is I think I'm gonna try the injectors next. So it could be that an injector may possibly be plugged. The fact that 2 of them are plugged doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Generally it's just one, but I guess it could happen. The other thing is, I guess it could be a potential exhaust leak. Now the exhaust seems to be fitting up fine, and everything else seems good there. The only other thing I could possibly think of is this little plug that goes into the intake, if it's sneaking air past there or anywhere else. I don't think that's the case, but it could be just a small leak somewhere. So what I may have to do is come out here and spray a little bit of stuff while it's running and see if it speeds up or slows down and go from there. But I can tell you guys that I have finished for today. I've been out here moving cars around and working on this. I know this video has went through a couple days, but I'm beat. I'm going in. So in the next video on this truck, we will figure out what is going on. I'm gonna try to look at the logs, maybe do some research and see exactly what I could pinpoint a possibility of being the problem. So this is just one of those things. Not everything goes the way I planned. The thing does run, as you guys can see, but little things like this, just stuff that you got to work out over time. But if you guys did enjoy this video, like always, please smash that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, go down there, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell icon. That notifies you every time we drop a new video. And stay tuned to see this truck get on the road in the next video.